Hey friends, UFC 211. Our coverage is brought to you by Fierce Supply. Please check them out. It's fiercesupply.com. And if you support us, please support them. They've been very good to us. They're very passionate, driven people, make cool garments. We'll set you up with something.
Awesome.
This
I
is
love it.
My friend Megan Olivi.
Hey guys.
Megan, how's it going? What's happening?
It's going so good. I feel like today has been kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. We were at the open workouts and I felt thousands maybe of fans showed up.
Yeah, it was wild.
And sometimes those are hit or miss, but today's were so incredible and the crowd had so much energy that it just felt like a really, really big moment.
Yeah, it was really cool. And man, when Joanna came out and they were screaming and stuff, it was wild.
Did you see all those girls crying?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Like crying, like tears, like mascara?
Yes, like they were so happy they met her.
That's so cool.
There were some with Polish flags and then there was a girl outside who was crying and I asked Joanna, I was like, you make your opponents cry, but what's it like to know somebody idolizes you so much that you have the power to invoke tears? And you could tell she was really taken aback by it. It was cool.
That is a wild kind of thing, that people care enough about something. I mean, I know what it's like. Like, this is my thing.
Right.
I'm obsessed with fighting.
Right.
Before we became friends, I was a fan of your work because of how hardworking and how driven you are. If anybody who watches our channel knows that's something that I and we value really highly, the grind, drive, that's who you are? That's always who you've been?
Yeah, always. My parents just instilled that in me. Both my parents worked. They were incredible parents. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, but then the hours she should have been sleeping or resting, she was a nurse. So I just kind of learned that from a young age, and I feel like, there's a few things that kind of make me even more motivated. It's the fact that, this sport isn't necessarily taken as seriously as the big four, right? Not yet. So in order to get to that position, we all have to do our part to make sure that our content and our coverage is living up to what it would be if it was a baseball team or a football league or whatever it may be. And then, sometimes you get those extra judgmental eyes that because I am a woman,
You're a woman?
I know, it's shocking, right? I know. But maybe I got the job for different reasons than the fact that I'm intelligent and hardworking. So I just feel like it's my duty to make sure people know exactly why I have the job, and it's because I work hard.
Yeah, for sure. It seems to me that it's actually harder to get the gig if you're a woman, not easier. So, but it's a strange thing. Like people, you can look at somebody, let's say Conor McGregor, you can look at somebody and go, holy shit, that guy worked incredibly hard. And through working hard, learning from his mistakes, sacrificing, being driven, constantly growing, he became successful. Maybe I could do that.
Right.
And other people look at that and go, he must have got lucky, this is unfair, this guy sucks.
They must have given me easy opponents all the way there.
Exactly. It's because she's a woman or whatever. And I think it says more about the people who make that judgment than it does about,
Absolutely. And that's a great example because there will always be those people who want to make an excuse as to why they're not in that position, right? And that's the one with Conor is a perfect analogy.
It's true. So, Joe, you're married to an MMA fighter.
I am.
Joe, and he's injured right now?
Yeah, he tore his ACL.
I've never met Joe. It's strange. But I'm a huge fan of his work.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of his work. And he's driven, it's funny, so I want to ask you this. John Ramdeen is one of my closest friends. We worked together for 10 years. And he was interviewing Joe, and he asked Joe, he said, are you going to be a lifelong martial artist when you're done? He goes, no way, man. This is what I do for a living. When I'm done, I'm done. Do you think that's Joe?
Yeah. He loves what he does, but he wasn't the kid that grew up doing karate or the kid who was instilled all these martial arts values at a young age. He didn't pick up wrestling until 8th grade, and he was great at it, but it wasn't even like he grew up on the wrestling mats, So he loves the sport. He loves competing. He gets up every morning excited to go to practice. And he's a great coach. I think if somebody ever said, oh, do you think Joseph can be a coach? Absolutely, 1,000%. I think he'd be a wonderful coach. I mean, the passion he had on The Ultimate Fighter just is a testimony to that. But I do think when he's done, he is such a creative brain. I mean, the things that he thinks of and the way he analyzes, like he was just watching the other night videos, interviews with the new head designer of Gucci.
Wow.
And he likes to watch interviews with great music producers and movie directors. He just takes inspiration
the process.
and he just takes inspiration from all these different places that I feel like his talents, yes, he's so incredibly gifted inside the octagon and as an athlete, but I feel like the sky is the limit for his potential outside.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So I was telling you before we rolled, as you know, my wife is in musical theater, and she's been on tour for 6 months, and I only see her about every 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And right now she's home for the week, and then I'm here for half of it. Do you
Such
guys?
a bummer.
Yeah, but you guys deal with that all the time.
Yeah,
You travel almost
all the
every
time.
weekend.
Yeah.
And so, how do you, as a friend, give me some advice? Like, what do we do? I mean, we're happy and we make it work great, and when we see each other, it's even better, right?
Exactly.
You know, like we never
Exactly.
waste a minute. Is that the upside?
Yeah, that's how I feel. And like, first of all, the technology that exists now, like if I need to FaceTime him and show him something, I can. Like, we shopped for furniture for the house that we bought a couple of years ago, like through Skype, basically. I would just show him stuff and he'd be like, yeah, that looks good. Okay, and I'd buy it. You know, and it makes everything sweeter, but I've always been super independent. And so has he. Both of us always lived by ourselves. As soon as we, moved out, we lived alone. As soon as I graduated college, I lived by myself. And I think we both like that individual space as well. It gives us time to be ourselves and kind of unwind and not take whatever those stresses might be out on one another.
Yeah.
Because you're just so excited to be together that like you don't want to bring up the bad stuff.
And when people are together all the time, they'll notice little weird things, and they'll poke each other a little bit.
It gets to them, exactly.
It's true.
Exactly.
It's very true. So I'm doing a couple of things for UFC.com while I'm here. You know that whether it's commentating the UFC or doing high-level analysis, that's what I want to do with my life.
I know.
You know that.
And you are so good at it.
Thank you. I love it. I mean, it's funny, I'm looking forward to meeting Joe, but you were talking about how he's looking at other people's processes and figuring out what they do to become great at what they do. I do that all the time, but I almost always pull that back to martial arts somehow. Like every lesson in life, you can be taken into a context of a martial art or of something in the martial arts or a exchange or overcoming something.
Absolutely.
And the same thing can be brought back to something in life. And so there's something about that. I don't know. There's something about the martial arts to me that is more largely philosophical and big picture than I think we spend much time exposing or showing.
Absolutely. I think the fact that you have this passion is so contagious to everybody who watches what you do or when we're around you, and I think you don't get enough credit for, obviously people know that you are a great analyst, but I don't think you get enough credit for the passion that you put into it and the energy you put behind it, because it's okay to study one thing, but to project it in such a way that shows so much love and creativity for it all, I think you deserve some props for that.
Thank you. That's really kind. It means a lot to me. So what we do is quite different. We both talk about fighting, but your job on some level is to figure out who these people are,
yes,
right? And to find out something beyond them being an athlete or an artist.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of my job. I host this show on Fight Pass called The Exchange, and in order to make an episode of The Exchange, we're probably filming anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half with any particular athlete with nonstop conversation, just trying to find out who they are. If your image of a particular fighter is only what you see during fight week, that's not fair to them.
Right.
It's not. They are cutting weight. They are focused on getting into an actual fight with another human being inside a locked octagon. So they have so many incredible stories. They have struggles. They have successes. They have challenges that we can't even imagine. Every single time I think I know, man, I know everything there is to know about this fighter, they will open up and say something where I have to pick my jaw up off the floor. And that is my favorite part of my job. I love what I do. I love interviewing people after they compete. I love talking to them before they're ready to step in there. But my true love is getting to know them on this extra level where they don't have to worry about, what they're eating tonight for dinner and is it going to be okay and what's the game plan for the fight or is their hand going to hold up or is it...
Right.
They can just be themselves, and we have a roster full of amazing stories.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's funny. I tend to almost block a ton of that out unless with them and concentrate strictly on their art.
Absolutely.
And then sometimes I allow some of it in because personality is expressed in a fight.
Yeah.
We talk about a fighter that's creative, or we talk about a fight. Jorge Masvidal is sort of visceral, right? And the man. He's not super interested in sharing a lot.
Yeah.
It's interesting. A few different people have told me this weekend that he's kind of saying no to a whole bunch of interviews, and he keeps saying, "I'm going to talk to the people who've been rolling with me since the beginning." I'm one of those people, and so he's going to do a half hour with me after the fight. I'm giving him a ride to the airport, and we're going to shoot in the back of the cab.
So cool.
In the back of the car. But by sort of never kind of getting to know any of that other stuff, I end up specifically looking at their art, how they train their art, how they develop as artists, how they express their art. So I think I end up with a different perspective, and I think we don't have enough of that. I think it's been something, because the nature of how sort of misunderstood fighting was early, I think it was important to show you who some of the people were.
To humanize it, yeah.
And then we started to see, we focused in on sometimes their conflicts with each other and stuff. And I think on some level, you talked about the Big Four, people don't talk about baseball how they did 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
Sure.
They don't understand or demonstrate or analyze football the same way. It's constantly changing. The verbiage changes, the language changes, and I think that it's something that just sometimes makes me crazy. I so badly want to be able to peel back further layers and show people more about the fight itself.
Absolutely. No, and I, like you said, you do that when you analyze them as a fighter and as an athlete. That's how I feel about their stories sometimes. I'm like, if they wouldn't boo this person if they knew all the struggles they went through to get to this position. They would applaud them and say, I can't believe you did that. But it's like, so sometimes it's hard for me to watch fights sometimes where I'm like, these two people are two of the most wonderful people I know, and somebody has to lose. And for me, sometimes I'm like, oh, this is so unfair.
I know, it's very true. One of them is going to lose, unless some weird thing happens where they're going to do it again and beat each other up again. For me, I definitely see that, and I feel that, and you see them after. You've seen them weekend after weekend. You see these guys come walking by, and it isn't the physical pain; it's the pain of not succeeding.
Absolutely. That is probably the hardest part of my job, is speaking to the fighters and having them have to go on camera as soon as they lose, and kind of, there'll be times where I'm holding a fighter's elbow because they're crying, and I want them to know it's okay and the interview's almost over. I mean, they never have to do those. It's always whoever's willing, but that is so hard because it could be their first fight, or it could be them losing the belt. Whatever it is, losing is still not natural to anybody who fights in the UFC.
The way they got to this point was being a winner, being a striver, overcoming whatever challenge they had.
And the thing that I notice a lot is not that they're upset they lost for themselves. It's like they think they've let everyone around down, everyone who's around them down, and they haven't. Like, they'll apologize to their families back there, their coaches, and like, no one's sad, no one's mad at you, everybody's sad for you. So that's, it's such a dichotomy of who walks backstage, because you see the winner who's on cloud nine and ready.
He might have a broken arm,
and doesn't care.
He's still on
exactly. He's got 2 checks, so he doesn't care.
Exactly.
But then you see these losers, and he or she is just they're devastated, and the hardest part is that you can't do anything to make them feel better. If you could say, okay, you give them this, and some of their heartache will go away. It doesn't work like that. I mean, there are times where I know fighters, and I know, like, even on a personal level with Joseph, they've lost a fight, and that doesn't go away. They'll be, cleaning the garage one day, and just, you see a shift in kind of their emotion, and you say, what's up? Oh, I shouldn't have lost that fight. It's for years, and we see it every weekend, and it never really gets easier to watch.
Yeah. You're right. I think if the audience understood it differently, the fighters would understand it differently. When you realize that 2 human beings, men or women, have dedicated their lifetime, and not their adult lifetime, from the time they were a child, to create the combination of skills and attributes and mentality, the sacrifice, all those things, to be so great, to put themselves in a state of optimum performance, and then the 2 of them come in to risk their health, their success, their psyche, their everything in front of you. No matter what the outcome, if you understood the true scarcity and value of what that thing was, the outcome wouldn't matter as much.
Yes.
But we don't necessarily. We don't relish it, or we don't make it as precious as it should be. Fight itself.
We put all of our stake in the outcome. All of it.
That's right. Yeah. Which is, I think, maybe a more North American thing than we think. Soccer, football is the most popular sport in the world.
Right.
If 2 brilliant teams, your team that you and your family have been passionate about since you were 4 years old or 2 years old, it's 0-0 at the end, we all go get drunk.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yet somehow there's something in who we are, Canada, the United States, there's some North American element about deep competition, ongoing and always till the end, till somebody wins.
In everything.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's wild. So how long is Joe going to fight for? Do you know?
I think he always says he's going to fight until he doesn't feel like he's competitive with the top echelon.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to still be okay fighting guys who aren't ranked and winning. He wants to be able to stay right where he is, and he's currently ranked number 1 in the flyweight division. He wants to just be able to do that.
That's cool.
And I always, the same thing that I tell fighters who, if I interview them and they say, I'm thinking about retiring, whatever's best for you, and if you feel like that, then it's probably time.
Yeah, I've talked to different psych professors and psychology coaches and sports psychs and stuff, and they all say that when they say to a fighter, you know that the day you're retired and you're 57 years old, you're still going to have in you that desire to fight. When you're 80, you'll still have that. So because you'll have it forever, just having that is not enough reason to fight. You have to take all the other things into account.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, we live in a free society. If you know what you're doing and you choose to do it, I'm for it. We see that the audience will often right away on Twitter go, or whatever media, wherever, they'll say, this guy needs to retire. He'll speak to his family, and he'll speak to doctors, and he'll do what he wants to do.
Right,
ultimately.
Absolutely. They analyze the risk and see if their reward in their mind is worth it. And the reward might just be competing. It might not even be winning. But for some people, hanging it up is the hardest thing they can do.
It's true. Because that's who you've been. That's been your identity for so long. You were talking about that pain of not winning, of failing, and what you think you've let people down. You've probably talked to Eddie Alvarez this week, right?
Oh, I haven't talked to him this week. I talked to him right after the Conor fight. He came right to me. Yeah,
he must have been tough. It was a tough one, and that's a great man. And he was talking to Luke Thomas, my buddy Luke. Luke.
Yeah.
And I saw a couple little clips from it, and he said that, of course, it was incredibly painful, and he would have liked to have be able to say, yeah, I bounced right back a couple of weeks, but that's not true. It was very hard. But they said something really interesting about the freedom of discovering that your worst nightmare came true and you failed epically. And then once you come out the other side, your wife still loves you, your kids still think you're the greatest dad in the world, your friends still support you, all of your training partners and coaches want to see you get right back and do what you love, and all of a sudden, the very worst scary thing in the back of your mind that could have happened, and life is still good.
It's still okay.
Yeah.
No, Eddie's a tremendous person, and he does have an incredible support system around him, which I think is so important, especially, that platform was the biggest platform we've had in the sport. So it's not like we can say, oh, no one saw it.
We all saw it.
But I have to give him all the credit in the world. Like I said, when I am backstage, fighters have the option to come to us after they've lost. Now, there are those cases where they have to be transferred to the hospital, so they can't. But for the most part, every single fighter who has lost the co-main or the main event has the option of being able to say what they want to say. Most of the time, they don't take it. Eddie Alvarez,
and I don't blame him.
Me neither. I sometimes I'm choked up by their reaction, But Eddie Alvarez came right over. He talked to us. He was very candid, very honest. And that kind of stuff sticks with you. It shows the real integrity, the real character of the person, not just, all right, I lost this fight, I'm upset as an athlete. It was, I am a man, I signed up for this, and let me own it now.
He's a great man. I'd like to grow up and be Eddie Alvarez if I could.
That'd be quite the resume there, right?
Yeah, no kidding. So one other thing I want to ask you about. Now for you, 100 shows, 150 shows.
Yeah, lots.
Many shows. I've commentated 350 shows. I fought 9 times, and I've worked in 100 other shows, and not all of them, many of them small shows. But no matter what it is, I have the same reaction every time. I'm going through, and I'm excited, and I got my little table set up, and I'm talking to people, whatever my job is, I'm all pumped to be there. And then I forget about this one thing, and I look over, and I see the ambulance, and I see them bring that gurney thing out. And all of a sudden, every single time, and I shouldn't say I forget about it every time, but often I'm so excited that it's not on the front of my mind. And then it reminds me, these guys are really, we don't treat it with enough importance of what they are doing here for our entertainment.
Yeah, and I think actually what you said is funny because where I'm set up backstage is next to medical.
Yes,
and the first people that I see is our medical team and the ambulance, the EMTs, before the show even starts, before we have had one punch thrown. on that night's card, everyone is there, and those are the people that I am around for the majority of the night. So I think what we were talking about earlier, it's funny because of our different positions in, an arena. That's why I love the human stories behind it, because I see that a lot of times they're put on that gurney and they're taken away in an ambulance, and I just think, man, they're booing this performance, or they don't like this fight, or they say, whatever. It's like, if you only knew, and then to see them still have to go through that, it's tough. I remember when Rory and Robbie had that crazy fight, I interviewed Robbie on his way into the ambulance, and his face was falling off, basically.
Torn open,
and I said, how are you feeling? And he's like, I feel great.
Because he's a lunatic. Yeah. I mean, part of me wants to say they're different than us, but the real beauty is they're not. They're just human beings. Some of them are born a lot further along this particular line than us. But they're mostly people who just strove and worked and chased something that they were passionate about. And that, on whether you are obsessed with the minutia of the art itself like I am, or you are really in love with their stories, on some level that drive is something that should inspire everybody.
Absolutely. I tell this to Joseph all the time, but really what I say to him could really come from any husband or wife to their significant other who competes. Is just, I love you for getting to that position and the work ethic that you've had. I don't care about your career. I like it because you like it. That's great. But the kind of person that you have to be to sacrifice and work that hard and continue just down this road that's got a million curves and bumps and roadblocks in it.
Guaranteed to happen.
Right. And you still get this far. To me, that just shows so much about the person, regardless of how they do in the sport or whatever. But for me, that's what I'm proud of. It's like that for everybody who works hard, really at anything, but in our particular case, to watch these athletes do it, that's incredible, because you could tell anybody, hey, what do you want to be in life? Okay, you can do exactly that, but you're going to have to go through years and years and years of all of this, and it's going to be hard, and you're going to have this.
Here's a list of 100 sacrifices that you make, and by the way, there's going to be 100 I haven't told you about as well. Yeah.
Most people won't do it. They say they will, and then they'll start, and then they'll stop. I mean, I'm guilty of it as well. That's why I'm not at this level competing, athletically or something like that. But that's the thing that just amazes me all the time, and it's true. It's like, to get that far in anything, you've more than paid your dues.
So before I let you go, and we'll see you around all weekend, I'm sure. We'll see you backstage. It's going to be a killer fight.
Oh my God, I'm so excited and nervous, and I don't know why I'm nervous, but okay.
But you often probably are, right?
Yes, all the time.
So last time I saw you was in Buffalo. Dan was fighting. Are you friends with Cormier? You know him quite
friendly.
well? Yeah. He was standing there pacing, about to go out. You remember that?
Yeah.
He was very, very lit up. Obviously, your husband fights at the highest level, but you do have friends that are closer friends.
Yeah, of course.
Does that change it for you? Do you,
that's funny you asked me. No, I'm always excited for my friends to compete, but or someone I'm closer with, or somebody's story who hits, me just right in the heart. Once they get in there, I'm never nervous. The only person I get nervous or anxious for is Joseph.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody else, and I think because I have kind of honed those skills about how to be a wife and a professional at the same time, that watching somebody else I care about is kind of like, all right, well, this is what they do. Because if I have to watch Joseph's fight and interview the winner, I'm yes, there's part of me that's watching as a wife, but the majority of me is watching it as analytical as possible, because I have to do my job.
That's
the
badass.
UFC is kind enough to trust me with this position. I was very open about, dating Joe from the very beginning, and they've always entrusted that I could do both, so I feel like it's my duty to be able to do both, and Joseph knows that. I mean, I've interviewed him, his opponents, people who are past opponents, former, future opponents,
You did something with DJ today.
Yeah, I just got off a commercial shoot with Demetrius, So it's never a problem. But when I watch other people, I think I'm so used to having to kind of hold it together for Joe that I'm just like, oh, they're fine. What's going to happen is going to happen. They have their own wife or girlfriend to be nervous.
That's right. There are some artists that I've put hundreds of hours into analyzing their work and them and how they built their thing. Cub Swanson, Jorge Masvidal, Duho Choi was one. When Cub Swanson and Duho Choi were fighting, I was sick to my stomach. I was still...
I do get that,
you
yes.
know, like, I was just sick
But
to
it's
my
like,
stomach.
then it's like
Excited still,
yes.
you know?
It's like the excitement and the adrenaline, and then you are going to be super happy for whoever wins. You're going to be super bummed for whoever loses, and it's just, there's so much going on, and really it's like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. And
you start sweating.
And you think you do, all the time. I'm like, I am such a weirdo. Like, if anyone watches me watching fights, they're going to...
Me too. I watched that fight with Kelvin Gastelum, and he was just looking at
yes,
like,
that was in Toronto. You were just on the other side. Yeah, I totally remember that.
Yeah, that's right. So you were talking about the UFC and trusting you with that job. Do you see a future, or a future path? For example, I want to commentate the UFC next to John Anik one day. I want that, whether that's in 11 years or 17 years, I'm driven to keep getting better and contribute pieces until I do that.
Yeah.
Do you have that? Do you have a specific thing like that? I mean, you're already doing at the highest level your form of what you do so far.
I mean, for what I do, obviously there's still a lot of improvements to be made. I'm my own worst critic, so every show I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have done this better, I could have done this better. I just want to be that person that they can call no matter what the gig is. Oh, we need somebody for this, it's Megan. Oh, we need somebody for this, it's Megan. Whether it's television or not, I love being on TV because I love talking. I will talk to anybody about anything. I love the sport. I take it very seriously what I do. I feel like I've been entrusted to tell these people's stories, and that means a lot to me. But I do love the sit-downs that I do. If I, was presented an opportunity to say, hey, what's the next move? I would love to get those on television and really get them to a broader audience. Whether that means if my dream would have put them on Big Fox before a fight.
You know what would make before a fight as your whole thing?
Yeah.
Or really like sweet chunks of it leading into the main event or something. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
That's what I would love to do.
And you see in other sports, there's that there's that little break in there where people start to really anticipate that interesting behind the curtain idea that you're going to get from that one reporter that you get to know. That's cool.
Yeah, that's what I love, because again, as much as you love watching what they do creatively inside of there, I just love being able to tell that story. And it's something that I would love to have a bigger platform for, a broader platform, more resources for. It's something that I feel passionately about, but I also feel like is a real idea that could be successful. It's not, I'm not saying, oh, let me throw this idea at you. Right, let me throw this idea at you, and it's terrible, but I want it to stick. I think it will hit home for a lot of people. Like you said, we see it in all the other sports. I would love to have the opportunity to do that for the UFC.
Let's make that happen. Thanks, Megan. You're awesome.
You are the man. I just have to say, before I knew Robin, he gave me some of the kindest words I've ever heard, and you didn't even know that I was going to hear them, and I could cry right now because we didn't know each other, and you had no reason to say it other than
I just really like your work. I think you work really hard,
and it hit me so deeply. And I just want to say thank you. And I've told you from day one, whatever you need help with, I would love nothing more than to say I'm on Team Robin. So thank you for everything.
Blackout.